how close is too close when it comes to a threat? I'm Max Budiak, USCCA Training Manager, and today we're going to answer that question for you. First, I want to make sure that we're going to cover 3 topics. What is the 21-foot rule and how did it come to be? What does the 21-foot rule mean for concealed carriers? And how can you test this principle at home? All right, so what is the 21-foot rule? The 21-foot rule was developed as a guideline for police officers to answer the question, how close is too close when it comes to defending their life? Really, the 21-foot rule should be used as a principle, a guideline for you to set your protective bubble when a threat is near. The 21-foot rule speaks to a principle called the reactionary gap principle. Simply said, the reactionary gap principle relates to the time that it takes to recognize a threat and then to be able to react to it. How did the 21-foot rule come to be in the first place? Lieutenant Dennis Tueller, a Utah police trainer, thought of an experiment where he wanted to test how long it took for police officers to be able to draw their firearm, fire 2 shots on target at center mass, and to be able to stop a threat. Lieutenant Dennis Tueller wanted to run a few experiments to see just how long it would take a police officer to recognize and react to a potential threat. He set an experiment up at 21 feet at a sterile range while the police officers used an open carry holster on an identified stationary target. When Dennis started the stopwatch, the police officers were asked to draw their firearm and fire 2 shots to center mass of the target. What Lieutenant Dennis Tueller found is that on average, it took a practiced police officer about 1.5 seconds to fire those 2 shots. Now, Tueller thought to himself, how long does it take for an attacker to cover that same distance of 21 feet? So he ran another experiment. He asked an attacker with a replica knife to start at 21 feet and run towards a defender to see how long it took for them to cover that distance of 21 feet. And here's the interesting thing, guys. Dennis Tueller found that it took about 1.5 seconds for that attacker to cover that distance. If you remember, that's the same time that it took for that defender to draw their weapon and fire 2 shots on target. Now, he continued to run simulations of this experiment, and what he found was that even though the defender was able to draw their firearm and fire 2 shots accurately on target, oftentimes the defender was still wounded by the knife slash of the attacker. So what does this 21-foot rule mean for concealed carriers? Well, we have to take a couple of things into consideration. Number 1, as a concealed carrier, we are going to experience a much longer and more difficult drawing process compared to the open carry that a police officer experienced during the experiments. Second, we need to understand that our reactionary gap is actually going to be wider than what the police officers experienced because we will be caught off guard in a defensive situation. And we must remember it is our responsibility as concealed carry holders to follow the law. In fact, in certain jurisdictions, it can even be considered a crime to simply show your firearm when there was not a need for deadly use of force. Be sure that you're aware of your state's laws and follow them to a T. So you might be asking, how can I test this at home? Well, I have a simple test that just requires 2 people, a replica firearm, a replica knife, or if you don't have a replica knife, even a rolled up piece of paper, and then a stopwatch. So first, you'll set the attacker and the defender at a distance of 21 feet. The defender's replica handgun should be holstered in an open carry position. The drill starts when the attacker rushes towards the defender without warning. The defender successfully completes the drill if they're able to draw from their holster and push the firearm onto target within the 1.5 seconds before the attacker reaches them. So guys, in conclusion, the 21-foot rule is not a legal rule, but instead it is meant to be more of a guideline, of a principle that you should follow as a concealed carry holder. It reminds us that we should increase our situational awareness at all times and even expand our own personal protective bubble. Concealed carriers will most likely experience a larger reactionary gap, so be aware of your surroundings and make sure that you're always staying safe. Before you go, quick reminder, we have a secret gun giveaway going on right now that you can enter for free. But hurry up, it ends really soon. Just click the link in the description below to reveal which brand new gun you could win today.